YouTube. I'm out here on my favorite mountain biking trail. Enjoying the day. Another beautiful day here in Tahoe. And yeah, I haven't created in a few days, so I was feeling drawn to, I guess, just go a little more in depth about the journey that I'm on and yeah, how that affected kind of everything. I think that we are all connected to source, right? We're all connected. As kids, we come in and we're pure. We're all connected. We're pure. And as we take on certain belief systems and eat certain foods that don't, and make certain decisions that aren't the best for us throughout our life, those decisions tend to weigh us down, and we become less and less connected, and it becomes harder to get back to that natural state that we all come from, right? But we are all naturally connected, and when we start to eliminate some of those blockages, whether those are emotional blockages or physical blockages or both, because I think first it starts on the emotional, in the emotional field, and then it would manifest in the physical field. But if I have certain blockages in my body because I'm not breathing properly, then that might lead to me eating certain foods that physically lead to certain blockages in my body, that then is the energy is not able to pass through, and I'm not able to connect to source as well, or connect to God as well. So when we start to cleanse our vessel is really when the spiritual journey starts to begin. You know, we start to see how much of our effort and how much of our energy is used to basically to mask emotional uncomforts that we might be running from. A lot of the times when we reach for food, we're not necessarily hungry, we're not necessarily trying to satiate a food craving, but more an emotional craving. And that is because food in our society has become the most societally accepted drug. You know, I mean, you could be like, yo, let's go get a hamburger and milkshake, and no one will really question you on that. But if you start to talk about other habits, right, then it starts to become a no-no or a taboo, which is interesting in our society, you know. And then the fact that our sexual center, our creative center, is also linked to that pleasure center of food craving. So that is why food can become sexualized, and you know, certain people, when they eat, get such a release from it that it is you can be making all kinds of sex noises and stuff. I have one friend who's always moaning when he eats. I'm like, dude, do you really need to do that? But getting off subject there. As we start to gain farther control over our lustful patterns of thinking and our food addictions, our food cravings, we start to physically cleanse our body. Then we physically start to be more conductive for energy, and we start to be able to channel more energy or have more energy to connect to God and to do the things that we love to do, right? When it comes to this life, I think that energy is the number one thing. We are energy. We are all just energy, and we have a certain amount of energy that you can use throughout the day. So figuring out the best ways to utilize that energy and the most efficient forms of food for utilization of energy, because when we're talking about certain foods, a lot of the foods that we're eating are so complex that, you know, like a protein, for example, your body, it's a complex chain of amino acids. Your body needs amino acids to build and for the building blocks of life, to sustain life. So if you are eating a protein, your body needs to break down that protein and then utilize those amino acids. When if I just eat something that is rich in amino acids, i.e. fruit, which is meant for our bodies, then it is more assimilatable for my body and it's more pure energy for my body. It's also most fruits are highly alkaline, which are going to bring hydration and mineralization into the cells, which is what we're chronically lacking. People are dehydrated on a chronic level, and you see that as people get older, they're just drying up and right, their backs dry up because their cerebral spinal fluid, and you start hunching because that fluid physically dries up because we're having an outward spasm and ejaculation too much as males, and then certain foods, alcohol, fried foods, acidic foods, heavy salted foods are going to start to really dry out that internal fluid, which your spinal health again is, that's your tree of life, that's your root. So if you don't have good spinal health, that is not good. Again, that is blockages in the body. So working on spinal health through certain yogic, that's why yogic practices and certain postures are super beneficial, is because they help to release certain blockages that we might be holding on to in the body through patterns, through emotional tension. Trauma gets held in water, and our bodies are over 70% water. So when you're constantly repeating certain thoughts to yourself, you're imprinting the water in your body to be a certain way. And that is why it's important that we are, aware of our thoughts as well. Because when you start to think of like your emotions, you have an emotion. If I were to sit here and I think of my dogs and, this beautiful day and just being grateful, that puts me in a heightened state of emotion. That opens up my heart, and that produces oxytocin, dopamine, and epinephrine, which are super beneficial for my body, super good, right? And then if I were to sit here and think of like a situation where I had to defend myself against a tiger or something, I could cause a lot of stress in my nervous system, right? And that's a whole nother cocktail, a whole nother pharmacia of chemicals that my body is producing that has a completely different effect on the body. And that is an acidic response, right? Because that tightens up, restricts your breathing, so it locks the energy so that you're able to run away or to fight. But with that being said, yeah, I got some people right here, so I'm gonna head out. But thanks for listening.